Take two. For some reason I can't get through this.
I always think maybe I should make a joke and fuck it up when we start, but you always do it first, so I don't want to copy.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Okay, you guys just made the front of the show. I love it. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Yippee-Ki-Yay, mother.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Classic. I'm Ralph Quattrucci.
I'm Sean Paul Murphy.
I'm Deborah Murphy.
I'm John Quattrucci.
I'm Chris Coker.
And I'm alone in the great darkness of the universe, and that's okay with me.
But are you alone? That is the question, the eternal question. It's classic because we're doing one film tonight that I got to bring to the table because I spun the wheel and somehow I landed on me.
Well, actually, wait. Let's be clear. You spun the wheel twice.
Well, it was a technicality. We couldn't. We couldn't go with that one.
No, that's fine. Whatever.
Because you never hold grudges.
You remember that toy? You remember that toy, the 8-ball, where you'd ask it the question, does he really love me? And the answer said, no, he doesn't.
Shake it again.
Does he really love me?
That's right. Keep shaking until you get the answer you want. I get it.
It's called Magic 8-Ball. Maybe they'll sponsor the show.
It's called producing the show.
All right.
How come they've done that movie on Battleship? How come they haven't done one on the Magic 8-Ball?
Yeah.
They did the Ouija board. They've done Clue. There's a bunch of them. But why don't you write it, Sean? Find some has-been actor and write one.
Wonder if I get Michael Perez.
Now, you said that. I didn't say that. I don't think he's a has-been. Let's do a round of what'd you watch. John, let's start with you.
Okay, so people have been telling me about the show for a while, and I just haven't watched it. But with my new iPhone, I got Apple Plus, a 90-day thing. So I started watching Ted Lasso Thursday night. Sunday night. And I've watched 2 seasons in 2.5 nights. What a great show. I was totally bowled over by it. It wasn't what I expected. It's funny. Jason Sudeikis is great in it. The cast is really good. It's got a lot of heart to it. And you know me, I bitch about these shows all the time that they're woke and cynical and all this other stuff. It's just a show about a good guy who's a nice guy and how people respond to that niceness. But it's in London. It's set in London. For those who haven't seen it, I can't recommend it highly enough. It's such a good show, and I can't wait to finish it out.
Everybody dressed as Ted Lasso last Halloween.
They did?
Lots of Ted Lasso sightings, yes.
It's so good. And it's so English too, with all the F-bombing, everybody F-bomb in front of little kids and stuff. I'm like, wow, this is great.
And you stuck with it?
I did. I love it. And I hate soccer. I hate football. I hate it. I can't watch it. And there's not a ton of that in this show. There's really not. But it's just so good. Like I said, I can't wait to finish it. It's so good. That's what I'm watching.
I've never seen that one.
Oh, see it.
Yep. Sean and Debbie, what do you got?
Well, we did go to the movies to see Everything, Anytime, Anywhere. Or was it Anywhere, Anything?
All at once.
Anytime, all at once. Or I liked it. I don't think Debbie liked it.
No.
But we were watching something.
Wait, back. Why didn't you like it, Deb? Well, first of all, what's that about? My son raved about it. My 17-year-old.
It's like this unhappily married woman.
Oh, that's
really doesn't like her husband. She has a troubled relationship with her daughter.
Now I know why he said it reminds me.
That makes a lot of sense, Ralph.
He can't say, he said it reminds me of you.
And she's about to, her and her husband own a laundry, and they're about to lose it to taxes. And suddenly her husband identity changes, and he tells her he's from the multiverse, and she's wanted by this evil creature that's going to destroy all known universes. And so she eventually begins to participate in this, multiverse romp. It's an action film.
Okay.
And a comedy.
Right. And it's Michelle Yeoh, right? Michelle Yeoh, the lead?
Yes.
And
Debbie, you did not like it?
Yeah.
Not at all.
Oh.
Why?
That's clear.
those kind of movies, once you've seen one going in the multiverse, you've seen them all.
Was there a beam into the sky?
Um,
No, I don't think there was a beam into this.
Shocker. What?
That's every Marvel film, Ralph, not just the multiverse.
I don't know. Multiverse, is that a thing? That's,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
The multiverse is
like
the thing.
Obtanium, or whatever the hell.
you divide
Vibranium.
and another reality
Vibranium.
happens.
But I'll tell you something that she has been liking. We didn't finish
Obtanium.
last night was the new Paul Schrader film that's on HBO Plus.
The Card Counter.
The Card
Yes.
Counter.
That's supposed to be good.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
really?
excellent. It's kind of like this movie,
It
and
is.
kind of like Taxi Driver.
Is that with Oscar Isaacs?
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
kind of
he's
like
really
every
good
Paul
in it.
Schrader movie, I guess.
Yeah, the trailer looked good.
Didn't he direct that one with Ethan Hawke playing the priest? Was that?
Yes,
Paul
I'm going to
Schrader?
actually mention that tonight. First Reformed. That's an
First
excellent
Reformed.
movie.
That's a
You see how
fantastic
everything's
film.
connected? You don't have to go to the multiverse. It's just in life. It's just one thing leads to the next.
well, how do we know Drew's not in the multiverse?
He is.
Well, I'm a big fan of Michelle Yeoh, and I've heard that she's really good in the movie, and she's in one of my favorite movies, Heroic Trio, featured in episode 12 of Movie Strange. And I've heard that the movie is really great, but it's
Classic.
its own thing. And if it's its own thing, like the director's last movie, which I saw just recently, I mentioned Swiss Army Man.
Yeah,
That's not for everyone. That's not a bad thing, but it's very distinct style and way of telling a story that either you'll vibe with it or you won't. And I imagine this movie is the same, except it's a hit. It's been one of those movies that brought people back to the theaters, which is great.
too. Well, it's a small budget for the kind of movie it is.
Right. It's not Top Gun or Jurassic Park 6 or whatever.
But when
it's,
going in, do you
somewhere.
know that it's a multiverse film, or is it just
You do if you
know-
listen to this podcast.
Well, now
Well, that's
you
how
do,
they
but
promoted it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because they show, and I think in the trailer you got to see her do all sorts of different things.
Yeah, and,
So,
isn't Chris? Isn't that the one you liked better than Maverick? Is that the one you were mentioning, or you said you wish you had seen
that
it?
was the one I had said I wish I had gone to see
Right,
instead of
right.
Maverick.
Okay.
But hey,
Right.
you can't turn back the clock.
Has anyone here seen Jurassic World yet? The new one?
We
I had
were
a
this
fr-
weekend.
A friend of mine who loves those movies, loves them, walked out after the first hour.
Wow.
Ouch.
He said it was awful.
Wow.
And it's doing big numbers. But he said it was terrible.
Well,
Why?
here they
Why-
throw
why-
everything in but the kitchen sink on this.
Well,
I heard it's two stories. Like they
that's what I heard too. They diverse with the old crew and the
Yeah.
new crew.
Yeah.
And
and that everyone's given what's his name shit about this hand move he does.
yeah, Chris
'Cause I
Pratt.
guess he does it to everything.
He controls the Raptors that way.
and a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Like he's like so all kinds of stuff.
But I was really looking forward to it. And this guy knows my taste in movies, and I respect what he thinks. And the fact that he walked out, he doesn't walk out of movies.
wow.
Yeah. Wow.
That's
Yeah.
a big one.
So
Chris, what'd you watch or see or what?
So I finished Stranger Things season 4. It was, like I said before, it's more Stranger Things. It's almost too much Stranger.
was it better than season 3? Which I did not like season 3.
No,
I
the
didn't
thing
get all
about
the way through it.
the thing about this one is that it's not an entire season. It's volume 1. They're doing 2 more episodes.
Oh, they're breaking it up.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of broken up. And each episode is like an hour and 15 minutes long,
Wow.
right? And then the final episode, so it's only 7 episodes, but the final episode is actually an hour and 40 minutes. So it's a feature-length film.
Yeah.
So in actuality, it's probably more time, even though it's fewer episodes than
Yeah.
another Stranger Things season. Long story short, it's okay. It's probably not my favorite. You get the feeling like it's building up to the ending, the end 5th season probably. But one thing I will highly recommend, I've only seen 1 episode, only 1 episode is out, but check out Dark Winds on AMC.
Oh, that's supposed to be great. Yeah.
On what?
It's called Dark Winds, WINDS.
Yeah. What's it on?
It's AMC. It is a adaptation of Tony Hillerman's Jolie porn and Jim Chi novels. It seems like they're going to be adapting an entire novel per season, and
Awesome.
it's really good. And it's I like anything Native American-y, and it's basically
Oh, that's what the guy from
Reservation Dogs. He plays Jolie porn. Anyway,
Yep.
Point is, it's really good. I like the first episode very much. I recommend it. It looks it's funny because I think it has a kind of a lower budget. Sometimes I think the scenes show a little bit because it's set in the 70s. But all in all, I'm really enjoying it. It's basically about two tribal police officers on the Navajo reservation down in the Arizona, Utah area.
He was in Longmire, right?
I haven't seen Longmire, so I don't know.
I think he was.
I think he was in Fargo as well. He played not the movie, but the TV series.
That show is also important because the whole behind the scenes is also Native Americans. Chris Iyer is one of the executive producers and directors, and he did Smoke Signals all the way back in 1998, which remains a wonderful movie. And that was like a feature film written, directed, starring Native Americans telling a story about the real life of Native Americans. And it's only taken 25 years to get a TV show along the same way, but the reviews are great. And Tony Hillerman's, I don't like a lot of mystery novels just in general, but his stuff is really fun and readable. And I've been looking forward to that show. So I'm glad that you enjoyed the first episode. I did. And, it is funny, but if you also like things that are kind of take a real look at the Native American life, the Hulu series Reservation Dogs is well worth it. It's only 8 episodes. It's like half an hour. It's, and I mentioned it before, but definitely worth your time as well. If you have any interest in like modern Native American life, it's great.
Excellent. Drew.
So, I've been laid out with COVID, which goes from being stricken with fever to being stricken with exhaustion. Plus we didn't do this last week. So I've watched a lot of stuff, and I know John wants me to talk about all of it. Some of it I really want to talk about after I've finished seeing all of it, like The Boys. I've watched the 4 episodes and I'm really enjoying it. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I've watched the 4 episodes. It's truly dreadful. I did watch this documentary. I don't know if you guys would like it. It's called Scotty and the Secret History of Hollywood. And it's all about sorry, John. So what I really want to talk about is I watched a movie this weekend called You Are Not My Mother, which is an Irish horror movie. I rented it on Amazon Prime. It's set in northern estate in northern Dublin. And there's a woman in school and her mom disappears. And when she comes back, she seems different. And the title is kind of a clue for that. And what's cool about it is it's one of these, it's a debut feature film, and it's one of these horror movies that's a lot of mood. And so what does this movie feel like? And a lot of those movies are slow, but you don't mind if 2 things happen. If you get into the vibe of it, which I definitely did, and if it pays off, which it really does. So it's not the best movie I've seen in a long time, but it's one of the best slow burn modern horror movies I've seen in a long time. It's really well done. You won't recognize anybody in it. There's a lot of real talent, and it's as much a family story as it is about mental illness, as it is about being a teenage girl, as it is about witchcraft and family. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. So You Are Not My Mother is well worth. I think it's one of those $7 rentals. So I don't know if that ever came out in the theater here. Yeah, it's $6.99. Like gasoline. So I would recommend it.
Just like gasoline.
Just like it. Well, I've been watching The Boys. Season 3.
I'm gonna wait till they all drop. What'd you think of that first episode?
It was good, but I'm starting to see the chinks in the armor that are frustrating me a little bit. It's the same old story. Like this guy Homelander could just take out everybody all the time, and he doesn't. And our good guys always seem to wiggle out of everything, and they never get hurt, and people's heads are blowing off everywhere. I love it. Listen, don't get me wrong. The show is amazing, and I can't wait for the X-rated stuff that's coming up. I mean, I think it's going to be groundbreaking. Although the little guy jumping in the penis hole and scratching the guy's prostate.
Termite?
I can't remember the name of the production designer, but the guy who was the production designer in that episode is one of the really legendary, famous, successful production designers. And the last thing he ever did was design and build that set of a penis that you can walk into and touch the inside. I mean,
that's right up there with that penis thing is right up there with the penis in Pam and Tommy, the penis that talks to Tommy. I mean, it's like what they're doing with penises now is amazing. I mean,
a lot of Emmy
own character
category stuff.
So I can't wait to see what's going to happen, but I just feel like it's like the chinks in the armor are starting to show a little bit.
Did you watch the animated The Boys Diabolical?
I don't watch cartoons.
You should watch it, man. If you like the show, you'll like it.
There's so many things I'm missing because I don't do that. But you know what?
Oh,
I have
so
many other things I got to worry about.
I want to disagree with you a little on the Homelander thing because yes, he could kill everyone, and I like the scenes where he fantasizes that he's murdered a crowd and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, he wants Daddy's approval.
Right. I know. There's psychological.
Everyone, there's nobody to give you adulation, and that's why like that whole storyline about how he says some stuff that really he shouldn't say by any PR standard, and it jacks up his rating with certain age groups of politically active white men and stuff, and he doesn't care because he's getting love. And that's why his character is so sad.
I know, but the way they interweave what's going on now and with this, it's pretty.
Can I jump into 3 or do I have to go back to 1?
I think you start at the beginning.
Okay,
for
just
sure.
wondering.
And it's worth watching. I mean, you
definitely want to watch the first series because it sets everything up. Actually,
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I do really enjoy it, but every once in a while, I'm like, well, he could just, and how these guys always. Okay, doesn't. All right, so the film I brought today, slightly different. It's called The Ninth Configuration, written and directed by William Peter Blatty. Everybody knows him as the writer of The Exorcist.
And A Shot in the Dark.
I mean, he's written a lot, right? He's written a lot. I think he was a comedy writer, which I didn't know that about him.
Yeah. Pink Panther movies.
So he wrote The Exorcist, he directed this one, and he directed The Exorcist 3, which he originally titled Legion, which ended up becoming Exorcist 3, which is a slow burn horror movie that's fantastic. I think we reviewed that on the show, or we talked about it at one
I think
point.
we may have talked about it. It is very good.
So this one is called The Ninth Configuration, directed by him, William Peter Blatty, starring Stacy Keach, Scott Wilson, who everybody knows now from The Walking Dead, Jason Miller, who was the priest in The Exorcist, who's actually not an actor; he's a poet and
playwright.
A playwright, and he was used in this one as well. Ed Flanders. I mean, you go down the list of all these people.
Neville Brand,
Robert Loggia, Joe Spinelli just got a part because he's friends with William Peter Blatty and asked to be in the movie.
And William Peter Blatty.
And William Peter Blatty's in it as well, playing.
And I think either his wife or daughter and his son.
His wife is the waitress in the bar scene.
Yeah.
Who the producer ran away with during the film. The guy's actually in the film. He plays the person they call when they say they want to do the Great Escape. That guy produced it or was an executive at Pepsi who ended up going away with Blatty's wife, who played the waitress.
Wait a minute, his wife left him during the film?
They had an affair, and by left him I mean they ran away together.
Did she come back?
I don't know. You'll have to ask him.
Ralph, you can't leave us hanging like that.
And Stacy Keach's wife is in it. She plays one of the motorcycle gang who he punches. It's the one he punches in the gut. I guess she was driving a little crazy on the set, so he took it out like that. Anyway, so the Ninth Configuration is basically Shutter Island. I mean, if I want to give it away.
Captain Cutcho, Benson. In order for life to have appeared spontaneously on Earth, there first had to be hundreds of millions of protein molecules of the ninth configuration.
Vincent.
But given the size of the planet Earth, do you know how long it would take for just one of these protein molecules to appear entirely by chance?
Vincent.
Roughly 10 to the 243rd power billions of years. And I find that far, far more fantastic than simply believing in a God.
It's about a castle, a military
castle in the Pacific Northwest.
It's actually shot in Bulgaria, though, I think.
Yeah.
But it's a castle in the Northwest that people who have had breakdowns, it's an asylum, basically.
Yeah.
And there's a new psychiatrist going to run the asylum named Captain
Colonel
Kane.
Kane.
What's that?
Colonel Kane.
Colonel Kane. And Ed Flanders plays the doctor who's in the asylum. And so Kane arrives.
Medical doctor.
He's a medical doctor. So it's a group of.
Or is he?
Well, we don't know. We do know. Anyway, it's a group of guys in the asylum, all with breakdowns. And the story starts with a lunar launch that gets stopped because the astronaut decides he doesn't want to go on the lunar launch. And he's one of the main protagonists in this film. That's played by Scott Wilson. So, Kutcher or something. Colonel Kane comes in. Well, it turns out, I think we kind of know, we figure out that Colonel Kane is actually a patient, and he's actually a guy named Killer Kane. I think the book was called Twinkle, Twinkle, Killer Kane or something like that. William Peter Blatty's book, based on his book. So it's all about this guy coming into the asylum basically to cure himself. He had a breakdown in Viet Nam, and they show that scene that caused the breakdown. And his purpose now is to save anybody, to make up for the horrible things. He was a well-known killer. Everybody knows who Killer Kane was. Yeah. Killed many hundreds of people with his bare hands. Mm-hmm. But really, the movie is, again, William Peter Blatty exploring, does God exist or not? The Exorcist, he explored it. If there's evil, there must be a God. Or if there's God, there must be evil. Exorcist 3, he does the same themes in that. And Ed Flanders actually plays a priest in that film that's friends with George C. Scott, who reprised the role from the first film of the detective. And William Peter Blatty is always exploring these themes in his films. And he was raised, or he was taught by Jesuit priests in Georgetown. So he's got a very religious upbringing. I'm not saying he's super religious. I can't, I listen to the commentary track and I can't quite get where he stands, except he's constantly exploring, does God exist or not? And why is there evil? And why is there good?
Well, if there's
Catholic, evil, there must be good.
He's not a good one because he's been married 4 times.
Well, I guess
4 times.
Well,
wow.
That seems
would
fine
never
to me.
happen in real life.
That seems perfectly fine to me. So the title, Ninth Configuration, that is an equation that has so many numbers. It's the equation they use to determine how life started on Earth. That some molecule landed on Earth, and the equation breaks down, and Earth is so big that this equation is so big, and the solution is so outrageous that the only solution you can have is there must be a God that created this, because it's way too complicated, and the coincidence of this one molecule hitting the right place for a human being to start is impossible. So that's where the title comes from.
Well, in order to have life to appear spontaneously on Earth, there first had to be hundreds of millions of protein molecules.
Right. So the proteins, that's
the
where
ninth configuration.
Right.
But given the size of the planet Earth, do you know how long it would take just one of those protein molecules to appear by chance? Roughly 10 to 200 to 43rd power of billions of years.
Wow, you really calculate that out.
Yeah, and I find that far more fantastic than simply believing in God.
Well, that's the thrust of the film right there.
Yeah.
You just nailed it.
I quoted it.
What I love about this film is it's his comedy writing. He was a comedy writer who decided to do Exorcist to show people he could do serious writing. This film is both very funny, very dramatic. It's slightly obviously pretentious because there's a lot of stuff being floated around and overacting, obviously, but I find the humor, they do movie references, they're doing Shakespeare references, they're referencing all kinds of stuff. Everybody's a little wacky, and they're trying to determine, are these guys pretending to be insane or are they really insane? I believe that Scott Wilson's character, the astronaut, actually had a breakdown, and he explains his breakdown and what he was so afraid of, which I found amazing. And Debbie, I can't wait to get your take on this stuff.
Oh.
The idea that I don't want to be trapped on the moon alone.
Oh.
And if I'm really alone, what that means, and the actual miracle that happens at the end of the film that supposedly actually happened to William Peter Blatty.
I just saw that.
Yeah. So, and the miracle was, we can explain what happened, but the metal shows up in the car that he's in. I just love this film. And Stacy Keach was a last minute replacement for, I think, Nicole Williamson or somebody who couldn't do it. And Michael Moriarty was supposed to play the astronaut, But Scott Wilson's performance and Stacy Keach's performance, I just think are amazing. I couldn't take my eyes off him. Jason Miller playing the guy who's doing a
Julius
Shakespeare
Caesar
play
with dogs.
with dogs, and what's his name?
Spinelli.
Spinelli as the casting director.
He had lived all his lines too.
He had lived everything.
Yeah.
And The Message. I haven't watched the movie, and I remember watching this years ago and not quite picking up on what's going on. It's pretty obvious, so I was kind of
it's pretty obvious that it's difficult to pick up what's going on, I think, on this film. And there's
it wraps up pretty well.
Can I go first?
Absolutely, I would love you to jump.
Well, I got to tell you, we watched this Sunday night, and we had to watch it with commercials. And so the first, when it starts out, it's very moody. Very moody. It's raining in almost every scene.
Yeah.
And the guys start out on this island or whatever in a castle. And it reminded me a little bit of Marx Brothers, you know, how they were the joking and all, and the free flowing of their crazy antics. But then as we're watching it, then because it had commercials, the same one with the Geico frog, you know, coming up. And I was like, so we had to watch that for what? It was like
you were getting annoyed with
I was getting so annoyed with the, you know, but it
cost
added
$1.99 to rent it on Amazon.
Oh, I didn't see that it was on Amazon. It was on Tubi and
Shutter, Amazon.
Yeah. After we watched it for 2 hours, I said, oh man, because I was getting tired, but it really, the movie was acting on my nerves because, you know, it's very crazy. You know, the mood was
the antics. Yeah.
It added to it. So this is a movie like John, I was thinking about you. I said, man, this movie, it really takes a lot to watch it because you just want to be done with it. It's just too much, you know, crazy. So, and then we come to the part where the main character, I can't remember his name.
Killer Kane.
No, not him.
Cutshaw.
Astronaut.
Cutshaw,
when he gives that performance towards the very end, and he says, you know, the aloneness, that scene, you could actually feel the intensity of, you know, not having belief in God, it's himself, and how alone that is. And I couldn't think of a better example as an astronaut being on to being out in space. So, and I was also wondering, I do believe that this author, Blatty, somebody should do this is write it down as a proof for the existence of God in a philosophical paper to send it off, because, you know, we have Plato, Aristotle, Socrates saying all these things. But when he said this, I said, wow, that could be one of the proofs for the existence of God, you know, the actual, the need for that, not to be alone, you know, that aloneness bearing. And that was so intense and wonderful. And I thought, of all things, this film, for as irritating it made me feel, because it was late at night and I was really tired, but it really paid off at the end with the pow, you know, like it hit you like, this is the reason for our faith. And then I took a not deep dive because it was just today, but I looked at, Blatty's, his background on YouTube, and it's fascinating, his life, how he had this son, he loved his son, and his son died. And it just, what is in this man as far as his faith, and what he said was really true, you know, about this belief. You have to, first off, you have to believe it, and then you have to see it. You know, and it takes you have to see it to believe it, but you have to believe it before you see it in God. I mean, it encapsulated my faith.
Isn't that the opposite of what faith is? I mean, faith is you don't have to see it to believe it.
I know, but when you see the scene,
that scene he did, you're talking about that scene where he's looking out the window.
Yeah.
And he does that soliloquy at the end, or whatever you call it.
Yeah, that's a
soliloquy.
Soliloquy. John,
he did that in one take, number one. Let's just say that first. That was a one take deal. And it wrapped up the whole film. Because you don't know what the film's about. I mean, you don't know what the hell's. Is this a redemption film for Colonel Kane? Is it? There's a relationship with. It turns out that the doctor Ed Flanders is his brother, and he's trying to get him to. I mean, it's the pathos in this film and the way he goes from, especially Ed Flanders. The way Ed Flanders goes from comedy to pathos. Like he does a scene where 1 second he's making jokes because he was the clown in the relationship and he's trying to get his brother to remember that. And then he realizes his brother doesn't remember anything about him and he walks out of the room and you can just see he's devastated. I mean, Ed Flanders nailed it too.
Yeah.
And Blatty said he should have got an Oscar for this one. And I don't disagree. I mean, this guy, that was
There's some amazing performances in this film.
Right. And it's kind of hidden in all the. You said Marx Brothers. He described it as Groucho Marx. That the astronaut was playing Groucho Marx, even walking around with that stick that he had or whatever that.
Yes.
And really be the honky thing he did, honk honk.
Well, that's Harpo.
Well, I'm just saying he said Groucho. I didn't. Okay, so let's.
One thing you got to remember about original thought and philosophy. There's not too many of them left, and to be 2022 and come up with this philosophy. I mean, I got excited about it. I have a minor in philosophy, not like I'm a great thinker, but
yes, you are, baby.
I like to think a lot. And I can't wait for one day when I die and I go up and I see Plato and I could talk to Plato and we can have a truly platonic relationship.
That would be, I hope that happens. For Plato more than you.
I got it.
Plato needs to meet you.
I know.
Nice.
Anybody? Come on, everybody, jump in. I want Chris.
Okay.
What did you?
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a tough time with this film. Honestly, it was a little bit. I got through it okay, but like one of the things I liked about it is that you're completely unmoored when you start the film, because Kane, there's something wrong with him, right? And you're not sure if he really is really, for the first 20 minutes. And even the major, who's like such the super hard ass, like the older guy who was
Neville Brand.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And for a long time, I thought he was just another inmate because he was so bananas and like over the top. I was like, so he's just crazy too. Right. And then, so you get into this thing where you're like, I have no idea who is or who isn't. The first guy that walks up to Kane, he's got the stethoscope and he's talking, and it turns out he's one of the inmates.
That's William Peter Blatty.
That was Blatty?
Yeah. That's the director.
Yeah. And so it was really good too. I mean, like the performances were great, right? Just all across the board. And it was so strange and so bizarre. So I found that very fascinating. But overall, I just kind of, it just, for some reason, I wasn't connecting with it, to be quite honest with you. It wasn't pulling me in. And I don't know if it was just because I wasn't like, connecting with the whole idea of like these crazies. And then there was that whole weird, like, I'm sorry, but that biker scene really was like, it felt so like, I was like, wow.
With the realistic portrayal of biker gangs?
Yeah. And it was weird. It was just strange because like, I've been to a few biker bars, like legit biker bars, and I've also been at regular bars where bikers showed up, and it was never really turned into anything like that. And then it was just weird, and he takes off the glasses, and it just was getting really weird. And so I wasn't even sure if that was really even happening.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's what I thought too. I thought it was in his head.
I wasn't sure if that was really happening and all of this stuff. And then of course that snaps him, and he starts karate chopping guys and taking out like,
he's Killer Kane. He's doing. He's doing,
and that's what came out, But I will say, I did have one quick question. I noticed on IMDb they said that there's actually 3 different versions of this film.
But he talks about that in the director. He recut this thing. He said 8 times.
Yeah, because there's like a 1 hour and 40 minute, a 2 hour, and a 2 hour and 20 minute.
Yeah, he took it away from Warner Brothers, recut it on him. As a matter of fact, the movie I saw, I don't know if you guys saw it, I was worried that we'd be looking at the different films, which could have happened. But the one I watched starts with the moon shot thing, right?
Yeah.
Mine doesn't. Mine started in the stupidest way.
Yeah. See, so there are different versions of the film, and certain scenes that were removed or not on certain versions.
Well, they said they did a lot of backstory on all the inmates.
They kind of what's that, Sean?
Your version started with the shot of the rocket and the moon behind it.
Well, it started with, I think, rain in the castle and that song. The song On My Way to San Jose or whatever that was.
Antone.
San Antone, where the astronaut's listening to that in his room. That's how mine started.
Okay, yeah,
that's how it started.
Yeah, that really. He said, I thought he meant the moonshot.
No, then it goes to the moonshot. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Then it's the moon.
I gotta say, you got the rain, you got the castle, and you got this 70s country.
Well, that scene was supposed to be in the middle somewhere. That scene got moved to the front.
When he's listening to the music?
Yeah.
I hate to say it, as soon as that started, I was like,
Because
why
we don't know who that guy is
in this movie?
Yeah. You have no idea who he is at that point. There's no.
Yeah, but it's
no
sort of like the song has no meaning in relationship to the film. They're in a castle, so you'd think it's gothic.
Well, it must have meaning to the astronaut. If you break that song down, there must be something there about loneliness or missing somebody.
Or maybe it was from San Antone.
It might have been. Drew, say something. You're over there. Then John can jump in and.
Well, I think I saw this in college, and so that was 100 years ago, and I must not have finished it because my impression of the movie as I was watching it was what I vaguely remembered, which is this movie is not dumb or anything, but it is not. I'm not getting into the atmosphere of it. I'm not feeling it. The portrayal of mental illness is basically they're all the same thing. And I don't know if I was supposed to think that the way that they were all spouting nonsense meant that they were all faking or they were all ill with the same thing. Or maybe I'm supposed to sit around and try to figure out what all of it means and try to interpret what the guy's saying with his hammer at the wall versus what Shakespeare with dogs. And I didn't care about any of that stuff. And then I ended up thinking like this movie is about intriguing stuff rather than actually being an intriguing movie. And then I also remembered that there are lots of movies that are in stories that are like this, like Catch-22, I think is an obvious model for this, except Catch-22 is really funny. And I couldn't tell if we were trying to be funny in this movie or what was going on, but I didn't feel anything until we got to the end.
Yeah. Because
the big reveal, which we would now call, I mean, it wasn't, I don't remember when it came out. It was
1980.
I had seen this. No. The sort of Shutter Island thing.
Oh yeah.
Like, you're not really sure. I mean, I wouldn't have thought of it in that language, obviously, when I saw it in the mid 90s or whatever. But I think, like I remember watching it and going like, I mean, I guess he's a patient, but again, I didn't really care. I wasn't really feeling it. And, I like when movies trick me. Like I didn't see Kaiser Soze or Sixth Sense or any of that stuff coming, but that turned out not to really be what the movie was about. Yeah. And even though the biker stuff was like really crazy and bizarre, that felt real in terms of the emotions and the danger and what would trigger Killer Kane to reconnect with what he's been running from. And I mean, I thought of Sean because there's a near rape in a movie from the end of the 70s. And I know that's like Sean's bread and butter.
Yeah, so, I got to go there.
Yeah, of course. But, I mentioned earlier First Reformed, which I recommend if you haven't seen it. And that's a Paul Schrader's movie about Ethan Hawke is a priest who's very troubled with the same kinds of things. Like God is omnipotent. How is the world full of agony and pain? And in that movie, he's really gets upset about the idea of the world is changing. The ice is melting. It won't be a place that we can survive. How could God let it happen? So it shares with this movie this huge scale and the small location that's left for you as a person. And I also I was looking and they shot. I guess they actually call it the Castle Eltz. They say in the movie Castle Eltz was brought over brick by brick.
They had to explain
Germany. You what?
They had to explain it because there aren't a lot of castles in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. I mean, there is a real Castle Eltz. That's where they shot the exteriors, and they shot the studio stuff in Budapest, and they shot I think the courtyard where everybody first meets in the movie. That's in Vienna, and they shot in 3 of the most beautiful places in the world, and they took the bleak angle on it, which was interesting. This was way more Dracula than like a sumptuous movie or something. But I think it's funny because it didn't do anything for me for an hour, and then the end of it was so crazy. It actually reminded me of a movie that's not a good movie and is not the same kind of movie. But I don't know if you guys ever saw, it was in the past year or two, that horror movie Malignant.
Yeah.
Which is
I hated
nonsense.
it at first. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's
then-
nonsense for like an hour and 15 minutes, and then the end is
That's
completely
the
insane.
dead person in the back of the head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
Okay.
like the end is so ridiculous. It's
You give it to
very
him. You go,
engaging.
yeah, I just got to give it to him. All right.
Yeah, I
he-
mean,
he
they just
pulled it
go
off.
all out. And this
Yeah.
movie is kind of the same thing in that it
Yeah,
goes all out. It's about different stuff. It's
Yeah.
not about a horror movie and people are walking on the ceiling and stuff. That was The Exorcist. But it's it ended up being a lot more satisfying than I thought. I know it won the Golden Globe for Best Screenplay. I know it was nominated. I think Scott Wilson was nominated. Like I think it's interesting that this was a big award nominated movie from a guy who had, you know, big hit movies before this, and I can't see that happening today.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I watched it again. I think it was or finished it even. I think it was well worth our time.
Yeah.
Well, can I jump in now?
Go ahead.
I got to say that opening, hearing that song, I did not see this movie before. I thought I had, but as soon as I started watching it, I actually thought, because we were watching it on Pluto, which is not a great service. I'm like, is this the right movie? You know, like I went to backed it up on the streaming channel to make sure I had clicked on the right thing, because I'm like, this isn't what I'm expecting at all. I had no idea what kind of movie this is. And I got to admit, had it not been an assignment, I mean, I really ultimately liked the movie, but had it not been an assignment, I probably would not have gotten involved enough to like it. Now, this is it's hard to believe a studio like Warner Brothers, well, because it was a late 70s film, it is believable, would make such a weird personal statement. You know, obviously this wasn't a film that they're like, people are going to be chomping at the bits to see this movie. And apparently his conflict with Warner Brothers was they wanted to sell it as this is the guy who did The Exorcist, so that people would think it's a horror movie. And he didn't want that. And, you know, so that led to his break with Warner Brothers. But, you know, this was, you know, it was probably not an expensive film. You know, it was a lot of it was in just a couple rooms. You know, it had a very nice cast. And I reviewed some of the cast, like, was it the Spinetti guy who was like in Godfather 2?
His Godfather, Rocky.
Yeah.
And I was sorry to see he was a hemophiliac and apparently accidentally cut himself and died. You know, he was like 52.
Oh, that's a shame.
You know, but it was, you know, it was a very good cast. It meandered. It was funny in places. I always like Jason Miller. You know, to me, I never liked The Exorcist the first couple times I thought it, because I thought as a horror movie, it just relied on shock. But the older I got, the more I watched Jason Miller as the priest in that film. And I thought he's the one that's grounding this movie.
Yeah, it's a relationship with his mother. It's all about his mother and faith.
Yeah, I mean, he's I think, you know, for someone who's not an actor,
yeah,
he's an amazing actor in that movie. And he was good in this. I was like wishing there was more of him. And we got Robert Loggia in blackface singing Al Jolson. You know,
that's one of the scenes that was cut out of one of the versions.
Moses Gunn was Superman.
Moses Gunn, Superman. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so I mean, there was like,
well, and all the references to films that they were shouting out at each other, and you know, anyway,
there were a lot of great lines like, "I'm a Buddhist. If in case of emergency, call me a llama or something."
right.
And then he says this, when he's going through the files looking for his, right? He goes, there's numerous, too much to enumerate. It was like, you know, you really had
Scott Wilson was just on fire in this.
Yeah,
one,
I know my rights. I demand to see my urologist.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like little things like that. But you really had to pay attention to the, you know, what they were to get the Marx thing, you know, the funny,
And
because it moves so
well,
fast.
no, well, that's I don't
fast.
believe. No, I disagree. You didn't have to pay. That's what he was doing. Every time he opened the door, he'd slam the door and stuff would fall on him, or he walked around in the flippers. I mean, the comedy was broad. What about Robert Loggia flying with the jetpack?
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, that was.
And the next thing you see, you hear the crash, and then the doctors always popping up everywhere, taking people's temperatures and, you know, all kinds of stuff. So
That was-
I think the
just
comedy
that
was
scene
broad.
with Blatty and Kane, you know, and Blatty's there, you know, like deadly serious. He's got the stethoscope. and he's telling them about it, and he's one of the patients.
Right.
And then the real doctor, because he doesn't have his pants, comes
Well,
walking up.
Blatty has his pants. He took his pants.
When the MPs are dragging the guy away, it's like, don't wrinkle those pants.
See, you guys are hitting all the good spots.
And it was like MASH. In a way, it was the Marx Brothers meets MASH.
Maybe.
And I just I like the banter, the quick banter, but I think that movie would have been better cut slower, so you can just, you see the crazy and the mood, the rain scenes just really added to it. Plus the Geico thing kept coming up, with his eyes, and I was like,
it took you a long time.
Can't stand it anymore. I was like really angst, wasn't I?
All right, John's the only one. What do you got?
Ralph, I got to tell you something. What a choice. I'm looking for the 10th configuration because I mean, it just blew me away.
Have you been practicing this all day?
No. The performances were like incredible. Scott Wilson from In Cold Blood, Neville Brand from Stalag 17. So I really appreciated the performances. I have to tell you that I also had to watch it with commercials, and I looked forward to every commercial that came up because I can say that this was one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Really?
I hated it.
At the end?
It grabbed me a little bit at the end, but it didn't make up for however long I watched. It made no sense to me. It was all over the place and scattered. It didn't suck me in at all. It did a little bit at the end when Wilson made that speech with Keach there with the blanket over him, because you didn't see that coming. And then when he carried him down the stairs, it kind of grabbed me there. I didn't like it. I mean, I found it grind. It was a grind to get through it.
Yeah.
That bar scene was just ridiculous to me. It was like cartoon characters. There was danger, but they were so cartoonish that I was like, that's why I thought, to Chris's point, I thought it was in his head. I said, there's no way this could be real, what they're doing. So, I just thought it was awful. I really did not enjoy it at all. I shouldn't say that. I did enjoy some of the performances in it. Okay. I can't take away from that. Like, I thought Scott Wilson was very good. All the levels he had, and Ed Lauder, is that his name? Was good too, but Wilson was the best one. Stacy Keach was like, he played it up until the end. He played it the same way. I mean, it was like,
he was a
very
little
tense,
wooden, slightly wooden.
Right, very slightly wooden. So I didn't. I found it dreary, and it made no sense to me.
But John, question number one, because you're a religious man.
Yeah.
What was the thing? Sorry. What was the conclusion? I mean, did the filmmaker intend to get you, to hate the film? Did they hate the rain and the depression and the crazy?
I don't know. I mean, listen, the ultimate message was Wilson didn't believe in God because he believed God only did bad things. So
no, I think
Kane's point was, he give me an example of someone who did something, sacrificed, and he gave him examples, but none of them were personal, so he didn't buy it. So him killing himself at the end to save Wilson's character.
He didn't kill himself. He got killed.
No, he killed himself. He had the knife. He stuck himself with the knife.
No, that knife came from the guy who dove at him in the bar. The guy with the eyeliner.
No, Ralph, he cut his own wrists. That was the whole.
He killed himself, Ralph.
Where'd that knife come from?
It doesn't matter. He had it under the blanket, and he's. I mean,
no, I think he had a knife wound, and then he continued.
No. That was the whole point of that. He sacrificed himself.
Yeah,
with the fight,
in
the bar. The fight in the bar was the sacrifice.
Wow, you loved it. I hated it, and you got it wrong there at the end. No. He killed himself. That's what the whole point of that was.
He sacrificed himself. I'm not going to say he killed himself.
He killed himself to sacrifice.
He sacrificed himself.
And because in his notebook he wrote about shock therapy. That was shock therapy for Wilson's character. That woke him out of it when he did that. So, but
he sacrificed himself for Scott Wilson.
Yes, by killing himself. But the movie itself was just, like I said, the best. The only way it was a grind to get through it.
Yes.
And I didn't mind the commercials because it gave me something else to look at. So that's how I felt.
Oh my gosh, our commercial was terrible. Was the guy?
Oh, they were long too. They were like 90 seconds worth of commercials.
Have you guys seen Exorcist 3?
No.
Yes.
Okay. That's a mix also of very, very dreadful scenes with moments of comedy thrown in it. When I say comedy, I mean humor, not comedy. Humor.
Yeah.
especially Ed Flanders played, like I said, the priest in that one, and George C. Scott. They have these asides where things just incongruous things happen that add to the comedy element, but it doesn't take away from the dread in that film. And it's one of the most famous scenes ever of really nothing happening down a hallway. That is just it's a great scene. I'm going to tell Debbie something. I'm going to confess to Debbie something.
Yes.
That as an atheist, as someone who definitely does not believe in God, this movie made me go, now I can see why, the ninth configuration, you break it down like that, why people would go, it's impossible that this could have happened. It's improbable, it's impossible. Then the only obvious thing is there has to be a higher power.
Yes.
Okay? There has to be. I still don't buy that, but this movie made me go, you know what? I can understand why that is. And I just think William Peter Blatty's take on faith and good and evil, I just jive to totally.
Yeah.
And he's a funny guy. He seems like a guy who loves life. When he's talking about his wife running away with that guy, I mean, he wasn't. His attitude was not somebody who hates life and hates God and hates everything going on. He's someone who just wants to explore. Like The Exorcist is all about the relationship with the mother, which I guess he's exploring his relationship with his mother, because it also comes up because the medal that ends up
St. Christopher medal.
The St. Christopher medal that ends up being the miracle that ends up in the car that Scott Wilson finds at the end that affirms that there is life after death.
And that really did happen to him.
Yeah,
that's right. He says it happened.
Well, here's the story.
Sean will say.
Yeah, here's the story. I heard Blatty speaking on a YouTube thing that what happened, and he was explaining why he put this medal in. When his mother was in the coffin, and the Undertaker first showed it to him.
This is reality.
His mother was wearing two medals, and the Undertaker says, "Would you, is this right?" He goes, "I would like that medal." So they took one of the medals off his mother's body, which he kept and was wearing. And then later, when he went into isolation to write The Exorcist, he was really wrestling with his faith. He was wrestling with everything, his identity and all. And he said one morning woke up and he heard some clicking, and he looked and he was wearing two medals. And he said the second medal was the one he didn't take off his mother's body. And he took that as, a sign that
it was a St. Christopher's medal
that he had left on his mother. So now he had both of the medals from his mother, and he took that as a miracle. But here's one thing, it's funny. We were talking about the multiverse and all the multiverse movies. The multiverse is an attempt to try to get past this whole ninth configuration thing, because I think there was a book by a astrophysicist called Six Numbers, which basically says for the universe to even exist, all six of these numbers have to be the exact numbers they are. And if they were off by a fraction, the universe would collapse. It couldn't maintain. And the odds are so astronomical that the universe came into existence once. I mean, to them, it was literally impossible that the universe could exist once and be, and have all these numbers the way they are. So a lot of people like the multiverse. There's nothing scientific about it. It's a philosophical construct.
Yeah.
Wait, is the multiverse a real thing?
No. It's a philosophical construct.
No, but I'm saying we keep talking about the multiverse. I hear about it in Marvel films. But is the multiverse a thing that people talk about outside of the movies?
It's a philosophical construct.
Okay.
It's to explain away God and why God doesn't exist. Because
no, it's not to explain away God. It's a way to try to explain how the universe could come into existence without God, without a creator, with chance. Because they would say there would have to be billions of universes statistically before this one could just show up randomly. And so there have to be billions of universes.
They do this to explain order. Okay.
To explain the mathematical
and there's order because each universe has its own order to it.
Yeah,
You know,
so
it's a split thing, and then you keep on going till it happenstance that chance will win out. You know, you will get to a human being after thousands and millions and millions of years. But I don't buy it because, you know, it doesn't make sense, number one. And there's got to be one specific time and place where time was beginning and these molecules were extracted from the universe, like, you know, different solar systems to get the exact chemical composition of, you know, blood or DNA molecule.
I went kind of deep into the multiverse and the theory behind it. But in reality, it's like these movies. It's like the next universe is only a tiny bit different, a tiny bit different, tiny bit different. But I think the people who theorized it are like, this universe, there's life. The next universe, there isn't. It's
You
like,
think on one of these Yippee-Ki-Yay's making like people are making bank on our podcast?
I think on one of these,
we got a lot of viewers.
we have a huge number of Patreon subscribers.
Because it would be great if that happened. Well,
I mean,
listen, this was also an unofficial sequel to The Exorcist because
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys
astronaut
remember,
is-
but in The Exorcist, Reagan looks at someone and says, "You're going to die up there." Well, she's
Right.
talking to an astronaut.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, the years don't line up.
I
because
didn't
the
even-
Vietnam War was happening, and
I didn't even tie that together, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
that's William Peter Blatty. As an atheist, I find William Peter Blatty's take on faith and religion interesting and fascinating. And the fact that he'll explore it the way he explores it, good versus evil, all that stuff, I jive to him. And I found Exorcist 3 to be just a really well done film by him. And that's why I and it's funny, you guys don't appreciate this film as much watching it. I appreciate it way more now than I did when I watched it years ago.
Well, they say the more you watch the film, I've read other reviewers of it and other videos. It's like the more they say you have to watch it a couple times, and the more you watch it,
Yeah.
the more you'll appreciate
I
it.
see.
Well, I
Chris, you want to have a
appreciate this
watch
thing.
party? We'll watch it a few more times, you and I. What the hell? Let's
I got
do
to
it.
check. I have it on Laserdisc. I got to see what version that is because the one I have is the Blu-ray, and I think that's the final.
I will
I
say
wanna
this,
talk-
John.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go on, Drew.
I want to talk about Blatty making this movie and making all of his movies because I'm an atheist as well. I'm a Jewish atheist, and I think that this movie isn't about there is or isn't. This movie is about Cutshaw, which you don't even realize he's the main character for like the first half of the movie. It's about him struggling because he is about to go into space, which is, I mean, the vastness of it is, it's literally an incredible challenge that may not even be possible for our minds to comprehend the scale of it. So he says, like, wait, there's no God. We're alone. We're responsible for making our own way. And that basically breaks his mind. And he grapples with it, and he ultimately finds relief from that with what he interprets as a sign from Cain, who's dead and who set the example of, somebody made a sacrifice and that they got nothing for themselves, and that's the selflessness that convinces him. But the movie, I don't think Blatty is saying, therefore there's a God. I think Blatty is wrestling with it, and he has a character that wrestles with it and then finds comfort from that fear, because that's the universal fear, is that we are alone, that we're all going to die, that it and that can be read as either it means nothing or we can find our own meaning in life. And I think, I love watching thoughtful movies about religion, and I like discussing it and learning about it because I think it comes from the most basic human impulses that make sense to anybody of any faith or lack of faith, which is, why are we here? What's the point? What's it all about? And the fact is, it's entirely possible that you can look at those questions and say, well, there's a God. You can also say that it means nothing. Right. And there's no way to prove it. And faith is the belief in something for which there is no evidence. And that is, again, that's a very human thing to do. But I was thinking about like creationist theories and things. They talk about, well, God must have created the eye because look how complicated it is and look how perfect it is. And that's nonsense. The eye is a hacked together piece of fragile shit that doesn't work very well. And that's the nature of our bodies and our flesh evolving over time. There's no such thing as perfect or final or any of that stuff. And Blatty doesn't come down either way. Blatty says, I wrestle with this.
Yeah, that's what I love. That's why
I think that's an interesting thing for him to do, for him to spin stories out of. I don't need to know what he thinks, because I mean, once you release your work into the world, people can have whatever reaction they want. Like one of my favorite movies about Jesus is RoboCop. And, that is a much more dynamic movie that struggles with life and death issues and all these other things, and his death and resurrection and what does it all mean and all that kind of stuff. And, William Peter Blatty wouldn't have made that movie. But Paul Verhoeven is another religious guy who makes these movies about, these existential things and all this stuff. And Paul Schrader, my God, every movie is about that. And, those things they're very serious, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't work. And the first 2/3 of this movie didn't work for me. And then it really came together for me. So I don't really feel like watching it again, but I'm glad that I watched it, because I think it's important to have honest conversations.
Well, I have to admit
about
that
these kinds of things.
Normally when I listen to tracks, director's tracks, cast tracks, I can't, sometimes it's just navel gazing. They just love to talk about how great the craft is and how filmmakers are the best. I love listening to William Peter Blatty, because you're right. He doesn't say, this is what I believe. He's just saying, I'm writing this. I'm trying to figure it out too. I don't understand why there's good and evil. And coming at it from that angle makes me feel safe listening to him, because I'm not feeling like he's trying to tell me something or I have to change how I feel. It's just, but it did make me explore, like, okay, that is an interesting question.
And Ralph, keep looking for that question, keep seeking that, because, and Blatty will tell you this, I just listened to him 2 hours ago. He said, don't try to see first, believe first, then you'll see.
Now,
there's the leap right there.
That is a leap. But here's the thing: when you're the astronaut and you're looking at some kind of aloneness, you're alone. You're not around. Nothing. You're out in space.
Well, the movie that did that for me too was The Abyss, where Ed Harris goes down, and he's breathing he's going all the way down to the bottom, and you realize, oh my God, that is actually alone. You're alone. There's nobody else. Marooned is another one that does that for me.
I'll tell you somebody who tries to ask these same questions and I think always fails is Ridley Scott in the last couple Alien sequels.
Yeah, yes.
It's like he's asking all the questions, but doesn't even attempt to put an answer to it, So the last couple Alien movies are about the origins of life and what does life mean. And it's like he brings us to the water, but doesn't let us drink. But here's the thing about this movie. Everyone's talking about Cutshaw, the astronaut. But if you look at Cain, which of course is a very symbolic name for a guy who's a killer, because he wears the mark of Cain. But, the first killer in the Bible. But now he believes in God. But it doesn't seem to be doing him any good. You know what I mean? Because, he's as troubled, if he's more troubled than Cutshaw. And he's more, unlike Cutshaw, who has doubt and confusion, Cain is just filled, is crushed by guilt, and he's not looking for God for redemption. He wants to sacrifice. He wants to heal someone himself.
Right. He wants to heal somebody.
To make up, he wants to put his own finger on the scale, as it were. But it's interesting that, Cutshaw, is like God, to him, God gives the universe sense. But to Cain, he's still lost, because he's really relying entirely on his own, initiative to solve his own problems. And I think that's underexplored in what I've been reading about the movie.
Well, we're also missing the Ed Flanders character of the brothers. So many shots. There's shots in the film that allude to the brothers together. There's statues on the wall where two people, twins or something. That relationship too is a big part of this. But really, it is about Cain and the astronaut's redemption at the end. That smile he does at the end in that cab. when he
Yeah.
realizes it's a miracle.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it lights up. It lights up,
It
and it's
does.
just I felt the relief in that character.
Yeah.
Look, there's a reason that literally thousands of movies have been made about these kinds of things, and they're going to reach different conclusions, or they're going to invite you to reach different conclusions. Like as we're talking, I'm thinking about, like I love the movie Interstellar.
Yeah.
What does that movie conclude? In all of this vastness, love is the most important thing. That's ridiculous. But I love the movie. I don't care. Then I think about a movie. I was like, well, what movies are there where people are alone? Like you said, Marooned. And I thought about, here's a movie that a man is literally alone and maybe even will die, and then decides, I want to live and I will take action to save myself, and whatever happens, happens. And I think Castaway is a very intense, simple version of the same kinds of struggles that these guys are figuring with, because he is, without a choice of his own, the victim of great violence and alone.
Also,
And
think about
he's so relatable because he's fucking Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And you want him to live, but you weep when the volleyball floats away.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be alone so much that you
I
make
think
your
it was
own friends.
Wilson.
Yeah,
And
Wilson.
it was a basketball.
No,
No, it was
The volleyball.
It was a volleyball.
Wasn't it Wilson, the basketball?
It was a volleyball. Wilson volleyball.
Boy, I got that wrong.
Sure.
I remember everybody in the theater.
Chris wants to
wept.
say something. Chris, what did you want to say?
No, nothing. I was just going to respond to you, John, about a watch party. The funny thing is I saw the 2-hour version of this, but I also noticed that like on one of the other weird streaming services like Tubi had the 2-hour and 20-minute version. And there's a little part of me, because while I'm not an atheist, I am a masochist and wants to watch that version.
I felt the same way.
That's
There's a
with
part of me
commercials. That's got to be with commercials, that 220.
Yeah, I
but
know. but-
Tubi is not as bad as Pluto.
Yeah, they don't
We
have
And
had
I'll tell
both
you
on.
what.
We had both on, and we got to the very end. I said, I can't, Sean, I can't stand it anymore. So I did something, and I erased everywhere. So we had to go back to Tubi.
You know,
and watch it
on
on with the guy. Did
on
you watch it with-
Pluto,
Oh
if you
my
fast
God.
forward it won't let you fast forward past the commercials.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you try to fast forward it and you come to a commercial, it takes you back to the very first commercial.
No wonder you were going crazy. I mean, come on.
But
No, but
at the end,
I
of the
went
movie,
to
Pay the
Tubi.
$1.99 on Amazon.
I
Jesus.
didn't realize it was there. I
works.
looked at I went.
I texted, said it's on Amazon for
I would have been pissed
$1.99.
if I paid $2 for that movie.
Oh,
No,
stop
but I
it.
tell you,
Oof.
Drew, another film that's even more to the point is that Sandra Bullock one.
Oh, yeah.
Is entrapped in space.
Yeah.
I forgot
Gravity.
the name.
Yeah.
What's it
Gravity.
called?
Gravity. Yeah.
Gravity.
No, I love that movie.
That
Yeah,
is
that's a
very-
great.
that was an amazing
film.
film. And like how she invents what's his name coming on the ship with
Yeah,
her.
George Clooney.
George
George
Clooney.
The one
And
with
look, I mean,
Matt
the end
Damon.
of that-
The Matt
the end of that
Damon, the one where
movie-
he was
But
stuck
I
on
want to
Mars.
know. I'm
Oh,
going
the
to ask
Martian.
something.
But I mean, the end
Yeah.
of Gravity is literally life crawling out of the ocean.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's not subtle. I mean, she
John.
crawls out of the ooze.
You know how all the time you say to reach out to the audience to smash the button? Well, I think we should reach out to our audience and say, if there is a philosopher out there, more, a PhD, not me, I just got a minor, but somebody who could dissect this movie's Blatty's
Themes. Yeah.
comment, and the proof for the existence of God would be the aloneness that you feel philosophical. It's a philosophical.
let me just
thought.
say
And we can give him a hat. If they
We
comment.
can't even give away a hat. Nobody philosopher is
I'll
going to
give
come
him
on
a
the show.
guitar pick.
We'll get a PhD a hat.
I think
Give
we
away a
should,
hat.
somebody should write it and get him a prize, a philosophical
Well, you're
prize.
inviting him now, the philosopher.
But he's-
You just
You
did
don't-
it. You just
you don't
did it,
need-
Deb.
you just
You
did
don't
it,
need
Deb.
to prove
Yes.
there's a God. That's if you have faith, then you don't need
And
it.
Right.
to-
That's
it's
that's
logic. It's the ancients would philosophically come to the idea of
We'll get William
of
Craig
God.
to watch this. Oh,
Like
of
George
God.
Michael said, you got to have faith.
About God.
You got to have faith.
well. All right. Well, okay. I'm just going to say this. He only directed 3 films. This one and 2 Exorcist 3s. He did 2 versions of the Exorcist 3. But I think you guys should check out Exorcist 3. If
Is
not
it as
for
good as this one?
I think it's very good.
Okay.
John, you would like Exorcist 3.
Yeah.
better than this.
Really?
Exorcist 3 is like a real movie.
I know you had to think too much for this one. I get it.
Oh yeah,
I
no,
understand.
no, you know what? That's what it was.
People
That's what it was.
tap
No.
dancing
Ralph.
on a sofa. That's intellectual.
Listen,
That was the only
awesome.
reason why I didn't like it, because
But this
it
one-
made me think.
And all the Marvel movies that you love with the sky in the
I
sky.
think we know. I think we know what would have made it better, and that would be a 17-minute silent dance sequence, because that makes every movie better.
It does.
And I think it should be edited into every movie. If you're getting frustrated with it, it would be better to watch that than Geico ads. I don't think it would. Take
I
you
agree.
out of this.
Geico ads should not be.
And
They were
listen,
pretty
I've
in the
said
middle of
this
the night.
They were
before.
pretty great.
Yeah,
Their ads were pretty good.
I think the Geico ads would make me go, there is no God. Who would do this? Who would
said
make me
this-
watch the Geico ads through,
I know. Well,
that's proof right there. I just solved it. That's the 10th configuration.
Exactly.
No more Geico ads.
Listen, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If you have a library card, you can use the Canopy streaming service, Canopy with a K. It's free. The streaming quality is as good as any other streaming service. They have movies like The Ninth Configuration, uncut, beautiful. It doesn't cost anything, and they have a lot of Criterion films. They have a lot of lighter stuff. They have a really great range.
It's a
of
big
library
if
that's always
if you
changing.
have a library card.
Well, go get a library
then
card.
go
How
get a
about that?
library
I haven't been
card.
on a
You
library in
I got
30
some-
years. What
So
the?
you can go to a library
books. They want
website.
$1 million.
So go to a
I'll
library
get you one,
website.
John. I got one right around the corner. I'll get you a card.
Well, he'll put it in your hat when he sends it to you.
As long as I don't have to think, that's all. I just
I just-
wanna-
That's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering. That's all
your
I'm
right
saying.
as an American. Amen.
So, all right, let's rate this one. Why? What? Debbie, what? Yippee-Ki-Yay?
Yay.
Wow.
I love
John,
the whole thing.
Me? I
I'm
like it too.
confused. Okay.
I got to admit, if it wasn't an assignment, I probably would have turned it off at 20.
You said that. You said that. Most of these movies, like, I feel the same way about some of these we watch,
Gold.
but okay.
It's like a gold. It's the traveling down, then you see a rainbow, and at the end of the rainbow, there's a pot of gold.
Or
And
some
there's
Lucky
a little,
Charms.
There's a little leprechaun there.
All right, Chris, what's your rating?
I'm going to give it a Yippee-Ki-Yay.
Okay.
Mostly because it had some really great performances, but it just didn't really connect with me. But I will say this. I did feel the elation at the end. And I think part of it is because the movie is so dark and so rainy, when all of a sudden there's this sunshine scene, it's like a mental thing. Your mind is filled with, endorphins or whatever, because you're seeing the sun, So I do admit that last scene, especially with, Scott Wilson's performance is terrific. So that's why I give it the man. One quick thing though. Did it seem like Stacy Keach might have been ADR'd for this whole thing? Like to give him this almost like this otherworldly, his voice felt so disconnected. And it almost felt like they just re-recorded his voice.
They ADR'd everything back in those days, so
That's true
it
too.
could be. I don't know.
But he felt very and I mean it added.
Well, his performance was definitely the one.
And
If there's one thing I didn't like about it was it's like, okay, really, his performance was just too dry.
Sure.
Would you
a little flat.
would you buy the novelization of this film?
Actually, yes, I would.
Okay, good. I was just wondering.
Yeah.
John?
I'd wait for the graphic novel myself, but no, I got to give it. No. What? Yeah, it was bad.
Come on.
It was bad. Didn't like it.
Right.
Sorry.
Drew?
I mean, I would go with Yippee-Ki-Yay because I don't think it's not good as a movie, even though it's got some good stuff in it and it's about things worth discussing. I just didn't like the watching it as a movie that much. And if I really like a movie enough, I'll want to watch it again. And I just don't feel like watching this again.
Yeah.
I think you'll like it better the second and eighth time.
That is
Well,
entirely
I'm going to
possible.
say I am glad I assigned this to everybody because I'm glad I watched it again because I absolutely love the film. And it rekindled that feeling of why I just love William Peter Blatty. I just think that he's fascinating. And you should check out Exorcist 3, if nothing else, just to see how he mixed kind of this weird humor with horrific stuff that's going on. So check that one out.
Ralph, before we spin the wheel, can we just do a shout out for Philip Baker Hall, who just passed away at 90?
Oh, yes.
He was in
He did.
Hard Eight, Boogie Nights. But for me, he'll always be Mr. Bookman on
Yep.
Seinfeld.
Yep.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, what was he?
He's in
He's
Magnolia.
been,
in a
he's
lot
been
of
around
stuff.
for
Yeah, he's done a ton of
a ton of
movies.
stuff. Well, rest in
What a
peace,
face.
Philip.
Yeah.
What's his name? Philip what?
Philip Baker Hall.
Philip Baker
90
Hall.
years
Yeah.
old.
I always get him confused with the guy who was in. Who's the guy that was in the Star? Who's the guy that was the Darth Vader? That's
No,
another
Billy
David
Williams.
Prowse.
David Prowse.
There's another something Hall that maybe.
Oh
was
yeah,
the
yeah. The guy played Predator.
Predator. That's another Hall.
Yeah,
I get them
Peter,
confused.
Yeah, different
David Hall.
guy.
Peter David Hall, I think his name was.
Right. It's a 3-name Hall. That's
Yeah.
what gets me. All right, let's do a little what you spinner. I mean, not what you watch. What you spin.
What did we spin?
What did
Well-
we spin? Let's see. I think I have this right this time, but
Well, it doesn't matter.
could always-
you'll do it. You'll do
fail
it more
again.
than once. It's okay.
all right. Look, everybody's on there, right? Except me. I'm off.
On there.
See
That's
that?
right. John, I'm pulling for you, buddy.
Drew's up there.
Thanks,
Everybody's
Drew.
good. Oh,
Hey,
There he
there
is.
you go.
all right.
I can't
All right.
wait.
Chris, you're up. The week.
Let us know when our assignment comes out.
Chris,
I
turn
love
your
that we're
mic
calling
on.
this assignments now.
Yeah, I don't like that language.
Turn your
but-
mic
No.
on.
Very academic.
Just remember, it's a week I'm getting married. Not that there's any pressure, but that is. the
Oh,
week
we
I'm
should
getting
do a
married. I
thought we were
can-
going to do a wedding thing.
We'll do
Can
that
we
at the
spin?
wedding. We'll do that at the
Can we-
wedding.
Okay.
We'll do a
Can we
live
spin?
version.
Can we spin to see who marries Ralph next? Is that something we can set up?
He's good. Drew, he's cutting that out. I'm telling you right now.
The fifth configuration. No,
Yeah.
I'm not.
The
I'm going to stick with
Ralph,
the fourth configuration.
Mazel tov.
Yeah.
Kelly and I are very much looking forward to the event and also to seeing all of you guys, some of whom I haven't seen in person ever.
I'm
And
looking
we'll
forward
bring
to
that
seeing
back.
everybody
Yeah,
live. This is going to be weird seeing us in 3D.
Now it's a
Right.
party. It's not the wedding, right?
No, it's a party. The wedding's the day
The
before.
wedding
in
is
the courthouse.
Friday. I'm getting the party's on
How,
Saturday.
how,
I
how,
think it's a small
how
family
formal
private
is it?
event.
It's a
The party?
barbecue.
It's a barbecue.
I mean, where's I guess
Flip flops and a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I have a Hawaiian shirt.
Well,
Right.
there you go.
It's a
Wear it.
barbecue.
And
It's a barbecue.
Make sure you wear your hats.
Yeah.
No, do not wear those
Is
hats.
that this weekend?
next
next
weekend?
Next weekend.
John will have your hat next weekend, guaranteed.
Yeah, I can't wait. I have to fly down there to get the damn thing.
I'm getting mine from Sean and Debbie. I'm excited.
Oh, nice.
All right. So, Chris, you bring the film. Let us know by Friday, hopefully.
It's down to two different things. I've already kind of been thinking, you know how it is. You know, you
Yeah.
watch things-
Oh, you were hoping, right? You want a hint, or are you just going
You want to give us a surprise? Or you want us to weigh in on two choices?
Yeah, I could just tell you right now the two that
Yeah.
I'm thinking. I was thinking of going foreign on you guys
Oh.
and doing one of my all-time favorite films, Chungking Express.
John's
It's
gonna
on
hate that.
HBO Max at the moment, so
I have it on Laserdisc.
Oh, beautiful.
pretty amazing.
What's the other one?
The other one is Francis Ford Coppola's Rumblefish.
Oh
Oh,
my goodness.
Never seen either one of them.
Really? So I'll give it some time. That he did The Outsiders, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He literally back to back, staying in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or wherever they were. He reshot another book by the same author called Rumblefish.
that's with
Is that Matt Dillon?
Matt Dillon and Mickey Rourke and
Mickey Rourke.
Diane Lane. Matt Dillon and Diane Lane were both in The Outsiders. Anyway, I'll give it some thought and then I'll shoot it out to everyone.
All right. Sounds
And John,
good.
we don't have time because we're finishing up. But next time, I just would wonder. Let's pretend you had won the spin for this week. What movie would you have brought? I'm just curious. We can talk about it next time. For
Okay.
this
Yeah.
episode.
Cool. Because I need to think about that.
Because you did.
Oh.
Sorry, buddy.
I want to do some musical. I think Ralph. Because Ralph really.
I love dancing on the couches. That's awesome.
No, I could go classic. I could
dancing
go
on
classic.
the ceiling.
I
would
could go
bring
old
musical.
Hollywood.
There's lots of great musicals.
Red
Yeah.
Stair classic.
No, a real classic like Grease.
Well,
Grease 2 is the real classic,
2,
not
that's the
Grease.
one.
we're going to
Yeah.
school tonight.
I got a 4K coming out this month.
Of that?
Really?
Of Grease 2,
Oh
yeah.
my God!
Wow.
Michelle
So-
Pfeiffer,
Yeah,
Adrian Zmed.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
So-
All right, everybody. Nice job. Sorry you didn't all like it, but that's the whole point of
No,
this.
you
It's
loved
good. I'm glad you all
Yeah,
did
no,
the
I
assignment.
loved
I didn't
it.
know
I
these
loved
were
when it
assignments,
ended.
but okay, I understand. Have a safe week, Drew. I hope you feel better.
Yeah.
I already do. Thank you.
Oh,
very
good.
much.
Boy,
I'll
that
see
lasted
you
a while,
guys.
huh, Drew?
We'll
Yeah,
see you.
it sucks.
Damn.
We'll see you next week for this, and then Saturday we'll all be together.
That's right.
Looking
Hopefully
forward
it's not
to
gonna
that.
rain.
We'll see you
in
next week
person.
at this, then the following Saturday.
If people are lucky at the party, we'll do our show in front of everybody at the
Oh
party.
my God, that would be hilarious.
Give a little taste of what this
Yeah,
guy.
Those
absolutely.
people will be so lucky.
Yeah.
But you know what's going to suck is that
do this.
most of those people will basically be like, I didn't know you guys did a show. What are you talking about?
We ought to set up a computer so they can like and subscribe.
On another universe, in the multiverse, we're a huge hit.
That's
all I'm
right.
gonna say.
In the multiverse.
Just that close. All right,
All right,
everybody. Have a good
everybody.
week.
Again, love the hats, you guys. They really look great.
You're gonna have one next week for sure. I'll see you
Oh,
guys.
I can't wait. It's only been a month. Awesome.